Yo, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video. Just about an hour ago, I put out a video talking about the top trade targets and whether I thought they were going to be dealt or held on to heading into this offseason. The first guy I talked about in that video, and he was even on the thumbnail, was Dejounte Murray. And just about an hour later, he's been traded to the Atlanta Hawks for 3 first-round picks, Danilo Gallinari, and a draft pick swap. A lot in that package, and it was a trade that kind of appeared out of nowhere about a week ago. A rumor suddenly surfaced that the Hawks were talking about maybe John Collins for Dejounte Murray, a trade package which would see a current all-star in Dejounte Murray and a guy who's kind of like that border between all-star, like star-level player in John Collins, potentially getting swapped on 2 teams. And a lot of people were like, whoa, where'd this come from? And then it slowly continued to build momentum until about 30 minutes ago. Mark Stein says that a trade is imminent between the Spurs and one of the Hawks, Knicks, or Timberwolves. And all of a sudden, it seemed very, very real. And less than an hour later, he's an Atlanta Hawk. That has kind of been the rumor the whole time, but the Hawks didn't have to give up John Collins. They held on to a fringe all-star caliber guy in Collins who can still help them or be moved in another deal down the line. So this is a pretty impressive trade for the Atlanta Hawks. But I want to start off by talking about it from the perspective of the Spurs because I have a little less to say about them. They're only getting draft picks and Gallo. Gallinari's salary became guaranteed for this upcoming season at 5 p.m. Eastern today. So it seems like these two sides were just waiting for that deadline before making the trade official, which makes sense. So it kind of seems like this might have been the track it was on the whole time. Gallinari just going there to kind of play a role for the moment and then be a free agent next season. But bringing in 3 first-round picks is huge for a Spurs team that is trying to build towards the future. They're long past those glory days of having like Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu. They tried to bring in DeMar DeRozan when they traded Kawhi Leonard, and ultimately that just didn't work out. Dejounte was an all-star this past year, so it is kind of surprising on the surface that they would trade him. But when you consider the fact that they're still in their very early stages of the rebuild, they're probably not going to be a contender anytime soon. It makes sense that they probably just kind of want to bottom out, especially when in 2023, there's this incredible draft prospect that some of y'all may not know named Victor Wembanyama, who is a 7-foot do-it-all kind of guy, generational level prospect, as well as a guy like Scoot Henderson, who's a hyper-athletic guard. A lot of great draft prospects in this upcoming draft, and so it makes sense that they'd want to bottom out. In addition, adding a few first-round picks alongside a 2023 one. It makes sense for the Spurs. They are still very early on in their rebuild. Dejounte being an all-star caliber guy kind of lifts their floor a little bit and prevents them from fully bottoming out. Now that Dejounte is gone, they can let all their really young guys play. Not that Dejounte is not young, he's like 25, but guys that are like 19, 20, 21. Let these young guys grow, develop, figure out who is a piece for the future, and kind of just start from scratch. And I think that makes a lot of sense. So I don't hate this from the Spurs side. They would have to pay him soon. They're not really close to contending at all. It makes sense to bottom out, start from the beginning. So for the Spurs, I think it's a fine trade. 3 first-round picks is a lot of picks to get for a guy who was an all-star once. I like it a lot for them. And on the Hawks side of things, I'm kind of torn on the Hawks side of things. First, I do like that they didn't give up John Collins. There's been a lot of rumors that he's unhappy with his role there in Atlanta, and if that is true, now they still have him to trade for another piece. They could deal him maybe for a star caliber player that potentially becomes available. They could just do kind of a swap with him and someone who maybe plays a similar role to kind of just switch things up. There's a lot of options that they can try with John Collins now, and I like that. I like that they kept that flexibility. If John Collins decides, okay, I will stay now, then you've got Trae Young, Dejounte Murray, John Collins, Clint Capella, DeAndre Hunter. You've got a really, really solid squad in Atlanta. I like that team a lot. My one concern is the fit between Trae Young and Dejounte Murray in the backcourt. Now, immediately, it kind of seems on the surface like a fantastic fit. You've got Trae Young, who is a shooter, a playmaker, but he can't play an ounce of defense. He's just kind of small. It's not really his game. And then you've got Dejounte Murray, who is a bigger guard, which I like the idea of a bigger guard pairing with Trae Young in the backcourt. I think that's what you ultimately needed to do, is bring in a bigger body, someone who can play defense next to Trae. My main worry, though, is I don't know how Dejounte will play off-ball with Trae Young. I don't expect Trae Young to play a ton of off-ball. We haven't really seen that from him in his first few seasons in the NBA because he's one of the best on-ball players in the league. He is one of the best playmakers, one of the best scorers. He can shoot it from like 35 feet out. Trae Young can do pretty much anything when he has the ball in his hands, so it makes sense that you wouldn't want to take the ball out of his hands too much, which Dejounte is going to have to do a little bit, because I don't see him as a great off-ball player necessarily either. His three-point shot isn't quite there. He's going to have to get better at that three-point shot for this backcourt pairing to truly reach its ceiling, and if he does start hitting threes at a higher rate, I think it could be an incredible pairing, but he's going to have to improve that spacing a little bit. Now, he is good at shooting in the mid-range, which does provide some spacing and shows a little bit of promise for maybe expanding that range a bit out to three-point land. Plus, maybe it'll help as well when you have a point guard like a Trae Young who can set you up for easy catch and shoot opportunities. Maybe that will help him be a little more efficient from out there. He's just got to really be respectable for guys to go out and respect that shot, open up the game more for Trae Young, but really the value for him is going to come defensively. I think being able to have great defenders all around Trae in Dejounte, DeAndre Hunter, Clint Capella, and maybe a better defensive-minded four if you trade John Collins. You can put some really solid defenders alongside Trae and hide his weakness there. Sure, they can attack one-on-one when Trae Young is switched on to whoever is trying to score, but when you have that many great help and team defenders around him, it really minimizes the impact of that switch, of him being kind of a traffic cone on defense. I think the defensive end is where I really like the pairing. I'm going to have to see it offensively before I love it as much. And it's going to have to work because you just gave up 3 first-round picks and a pick swap. That is a ton of draft capital to give up for Dejounte Murray. He's a really good player, and I think there is potential for it to be an incredible backcourt pairing. I've just kind of got to see it offensively before I buy into it maybe being worth this much capital. However, you once again can kind of continue to improve the roster with a John Collins trade, so maybe they bring in more pieces. That helps me like it a bit more, but for right now, I think it is solid. I like Trae Young, I like Dejounte Murray, and I'm really excited to see how things work out for Atlanta. I like that they're trying to make big moves. After last season where they kind of disappointed, they didn't just rest on their laurels and say, okay, it was kind of just a down year for us, we'll make some moves around the edges, we'll see what happens. And all they had to give up was Danilo Gallinari in terms of salary assets. They didn't have to give up any of their big name players. If they wanted to go out and put together a star package, they still could. You could still throw in DeAndre Hunter, John Collins for some salary, as well as some of your other guys to make more moves. There is more possibility to make trades, signings. I like this for the Hawks. I like it for both sides. I'm going to have to see a little bit of how these two fit in the backcourt before I love it in terms of a fit between Trae Young and Dejounte, as some people have been calling it. I didn't come up with that. I won't take credit. But it's fun. And I like the idea, like I said, that they're trying to improve. They're trying to get better. The Eastern Conference is really good. The Sixers, James Harden just declined his player option to take less money, to let the Sixers get more guys in to improve. The Bucks are, of course, great. The Celtics are getting better. You've got the Heat, who are trying to make some moves as well. You've got the Raptors, who are young and getting better. The East continuously is getting better and better. The Cavs are another team that's on the come up. So for the Hawks to go out, make a move like this, say that we're not going to get left behind, we're going to continue to get better, improve, and try and really improve at what they needed to, which was defensively. They had to get better defensively. Dejounte brings that. He was one of the youngest players ever to be on an all-defensive team a few years ago. I like it a lot. So shout out to the Hawks, shout out to the Spurs, and shout out to Dejounte Murray and Trae Young. It's going to be a fun backcourt pairing. I'm excited to see how it works out. Those are my thoughts on this trade. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. What do you grade each side? Do you like the Dejounte Trae backcourt? Are you kind of worried like me about it offensively, or do you think it'll be fine? And additionally, what do you feel about them keeping John Collins? Do you think he gets dealt in a future trade? Do you think he stays? Let me know all that in the comment section below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy. Once again, as I said in my earlier video, I'm going to be live streaming starting at the beginning of free agency around like 5:50 p.m. Easternish tomorrow, so you don't want to miss out on that. So definitely make sure to subscribe to be on the lookout for that live stream. But for right now, that's all I have to say about this trade. I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.